Donald Trump's administration touched down to Jamaica as the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visits Andrew Holness. Greetings, greetings, and salutations to all nations. Ladies and gentlemen, you know it's your favorite Jamaican. Yeah, it's Rastafari Soldier here of Deeproots TV. Thank you for tuning into the Rastaman channel. Yeah, if it's your first time tuning in, yeah, hit that red subscribe button. Yeah, give me a follow on TikTok, don't you flip-flop, ladies and gentlemen. I know why you're looking at this one, because you want to hear what they said about the doctors or the medical help that we have been receiving from Cuba. So, as you see, Marco Rubio has touched down to Jamaica today and spoke to Andrew Holness. And of course, they spoke about labor. They spoke about, you know, the medical field in Jamaica and the Cubans. Now, I have a video here of them meeting, and I also have a video of, you know, reporters speaking to them. And it was a great, you know, gathering. There was no big embarrassment going on there. And what I liked about it is that the reporters, they asked professional questions, and I appreciate Marco Rubio answering the question and being transparent as you watch the U.S. Department of State, you know, visit our island under the Trump administration. It's the highest, you know, level of government from the United States that has visited Jamaica since Donald J. Trump has come into office for his second term as the 47th president of the United States, as we await the Department of State, yeah, Marco Rubio, that has just arrived in Jamaica, and he's on his way to see the Honorable Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And we do have a video as they will speak in, you know, public, excuse me, in at the office. And I would really appreciate it if you would, you know, share up this video here for me. Like I said, this is, you know, the highest official since Donald Trump has taken office arriving in Jamaica. As you see, we're waiting for a moment. They have to get some security clearance. As you see that the police and the bike show up in the background there. About 8 of them show up. Here comes the United States Department of State head Marco Rubio in Jamaica right now. And like I said, we have a video where we're going to show him speaking and taking some questions from the reporters. We really appreciate that. And here we're meeting His Honorable Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. Share up the files for my families and friends. Leave your comment on this one. As the highest ranking official from the Donald Trump administration, the 47th President of the United States administration, has now arrived in Jamaica, and it's the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and he's now visiting Jamaica. And as you see, Andrew Holness is receiving him, and they're going to speak, like I said, in a moment. Here I have a video where the Prime Minister is speaking
about travel advisory. We
the Prime Minister is speaking
progress that
to the press. So we're going to listen in right now at the Prime
travel
Minister
advisory
of Jamaica
we
speaking.
Discussed significant progress that we're making in bringing down all major crimes, and that Jamaica today is safer than at any time in the last 2 decades. In fact, crimes against visitors represent less than 0.01% of the more than 3 million visitors to Jamaica annually. We are committed to working collaboratively to ensure that travel advisories reflect the current realities and promote travel to Jamaica.
We did talk about tourism because obviously it's a significant part of your economy, and we pledged we were going to go back and reevaluate the travel advisories as they currently stand to ensure that they do reflect the reality of the new numbers and what the numbers show, because you've made very impressive progress in your general numbers overall when it comes to the murder rate and so forth. But in particular, those travel advisories are designed to American travelers. And I think we need to analyze that and just ensure that the status we're currently in accurately reflects the status quo and takes into account the progress you've already made this year and made last year, year over year, which I think is one of the highest numbers in terms of reductions that we've seen of any country in the region.
Thank you. Secretary Rubio, my question is, or questions, in relation to the matter of the Cuban Medical Corporation program as well. So the medical mission has been a cornerstone of healthcare in Jamaica and the Caribbean for over 50 years, according to our foreign minister. How does the U.S. reconcile its stance on this program with the region's reliance on Cuban medical professionals, and what alternatives does it propose to ensure healthcare stability?
Well, yeah, I think the first thing is to separate medical from the labor issues that we are pointing to. Okay, this is not about doctors. Okay, this is not about the provision of medical assistance. We have no problem with medical assistance. We have no problem with doctors. We have a problem, and I'm not speaking about Jamaica. We've discussed this today about, following international labor standards and the like, but I'm just talking about this program in general, how it's operated around the world. And how it's operated around the world is that basically the doctors are not paid. In many other parts of the world, the doctors are not paid. You pay the Cuban government. The Cuban government decides how much of anything to give them. They take away their passports. They basically operate as forced labor in many places. Now, there are places that have better labor standards. Perhaps Jamaica is one of those, and that's fine. But I'm describing generally what the program has been. It has operated in that way in many parts of the world and placed these people in tremendous danger. And so I think we can all agree that the trafficking in labor, be they doctors or farm workers, is not something that we would want to be supportive of, and we find that to be an egregious practice on the part of the Cuban regime. Now, every country operates their program differently. And obviously, because of our relationship with Jamaica, we're going to engage with them on that and talk about it further and have a better understanding. Perhaps none of this applies in the way it's handled here. But generally, that's the problem with the program. It's not that they're Cuban doctors. It's that the regime does not pay these doctors, takes away their passports, and basically it is, in many ways, forced labor. And that we cannot be in support of. Again, not speaking about here in particular, but in general about the program.
And that's basically what everyone wanted to find out. So the Secretary of State for the United States clarified that, the confusion was not about the doctors and the relationship with Jamaica, but it was about the labor practices. It was about the doctors getting their fair wages. As he said, the practice of Cuba and other people was to pay the government, and then the government would not pay the doctor. Sometimes they would even take away their papers if they complain. So what they want to make sure is that the relationship with the doctors are getting compensated from the government that they're working for, and the government is not paying the Cuban government, which would give them power over the doctor financially. So as you heard it from the Secretary of State of the United States, and you heard Prime Minister Andrew Holness touting the safety, that there has been over 3 million tourists a year, and there's 0.001% of the crime committed against the tourists. And I'm hoping that the Prime Minister can put some of those strategic, practices implemented in the country as we see the crime dissipating, and especially in Montego Bay. So I want to give thumbs up to the JCF and the JDF and the, crime fighting apparatus that has been put together. It's working. Jamaicans deserve to have a safe country to live in. The youths them deserve to have a good environment to live a long life. So, as I said, the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio came to Jamaica and made sure he clarified that it's not a problem with the doctors, but it's a labor practice where the countries that are sending out their doctors and their workers are being ripped off by their government, and they want to make sure those practices are not occurring between Jamaica and the Cuban doctors that are offering and providing their assistance, and we thank them. So big up all Cubans that's online right now, all of the medical personnel, all the governmental personnel that are looking out for the betterment of the society of Jamaica. And I'm gonna say, let's make Jamaica safe again. A more life and a more joy and a more happiness. It's Rastafari Soldier of Deeproots TV. Give me a thumbs up. Leave your comment on this one if you think that, Marco Rubio clarified the situation, the confusion that the U.S. is not pressuring Jamaica from working with the Cuban doctors, but what they're pressuring them to make sure there's proper labor practices that's going on, and that these people are not being taken advantage of by their government when they return. I don't know how they're going to make sure of that, but I guess they want them to give them cash in a them hand. I'm more life and more joy. Leave your comment on this one, families and friends. I'm Rastafari Soldier of Deeproots TV. Thanks for tuning in.
Watch me, this is Wayne One, so may I represent for Deeproots TV. This one is a bombshell. Check it out. Fire,